Okay, if everybody could get their seat. I will call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors for the Rossmore Walnut Creek for June 26, 2025. And Deborah, could you do roll call, please?
Certainly. Hamaji?
Here.
Bentley?
Here.
Hurt?
Here.
Byram?
Here.
Hildreth?
Here.
Lair?
Here.
Selden?
Here.
Walker?
Here.
Yang is excused, and Matheson.
Here.
Okay, are there any changes to the minutes from May 29th? Okay, seeing none, we'll say they're approved. And Cindy Silva's joining us by Zoom today. Cindy, are you there? I saw her before.
She is on Zoom, and I just saw her. She may have stepped away for just a moment.
Okay, Cindy, if you return, please let us know. I think we'll go on to the financial status reports then on item 5.
See, I wasn't ready here. Fundamentally, the reports show that we are in reasonable, the circumstances are perfectly normal. We're running a small surplus primarily due to the fact that our budgeting from last year was not.
Thank you.
Cindy, we didn't catch the beginning portion. Could you resume from the beginning?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My audio was off for some reason. Thank you very much for accommodating me. I'm in the Seattle airport, so waiting for a flight. Happy summer, and thank you all for the work you continue to do on behalf of your community on Walnut Creek. I will first report that after many months of work by city staff and council discussion, that City Council adopted its 2-year operating budget and its 2-year capital budget at last week's meeting. For the operating budget, it was a bit of a struggle because we did have to make a few cuts because of some changes in expenses and some flattening of revenues. But I'm happy to report that the funds were available to continue essential services such as those for public safety, library services, homeless services, and animal control services. We also have the funds available to go forward with our intended plan to update our general plan, which was most recently updated in 2006. So after 20 years, it's time to do the new updated general plan. We also have the funds to meet our pension obligations and to focus on other council priorities such as sustainability programs, homeless services, and economic development activities, including an incentive program to incentivize the rebuilding of outdoor dining in downtown Walnut Creek. The capital budget is quite robust for this coming 2 years. Among the programs we will be replacing the South Main Street Bridge, which is the bridge next to Gott's and across from Broadway Plaza. That's a 100-year-old bridge, and it's time to do so when we've received $8.8 million in funding from the federal government to help us do that. We will also be implementing some intersection improvements along Ignacio Valley Road. And of course, as I've mentioned in previous sessions, we will be initiating the new aquatics and community center at Heather Farm. We also will be redoing the master plan for replacing the Clark Swim Center once the new facility is built. Also at last week's meeting, we announced the award of nearly $1 million in community services grants for the coming year. The funds go toward various programs for nonprofit agencies that provide homeless services, services for senior crisis intervention services, and workforce development programs. About half of the funds for these communities grants come from the federal community development block grant monies, which are issued by the Housing and Urban Development Department. But about 25% of those funds will be coming from the Measure O monies, which were approved by the voters, sales tax, about 2 years ago. Last week, the city celebrated the opening of a newly upgraded driving range at Boundary Oak Golf Course. Now, I know you have a golf course at Rossmore, or maybe it's two, but this new driving range might be of interest to those of you who golf because it includes top tracer technology, which among its many features allows those on the driving range to actually pretend that they're playing virtually on some of the most famous courses around the world. So you might want to check it out. An estimated 5,000 people attended the Leisure Center's third annual Fiesta Cultural celebration, which was a couple of weeks ago. And that's a celebration of Latin American culture. And we're really happy to be able to do that. After all, the Spanish were among the first European settlers to Walnut Creek. Speaking of the Leisure Center, if you're looking for a great fun evening, you have just 3 days to see Center Rep's production of Happy Pleasant Valley, which is a senior sex scandal murder mystery musical, and it is really lots of fun. My husband and I both enjoyed it. On July 24th, Recycle Smart will make its final selection of the next collection franchise contractor. The two finalists in the running are Republic Services and Mount Diablo Resource Recovery, and the company that is chosen will be collecting all of our trash, organics, and recyclables for at least the next 10 years. The meeting is open to the public. It's on July 24th. It begins at 3 p.m., and it will be held at Walnut Creek City Hall in the third floor conference room. And I will close with saying that Independence Day is just around the corner, and the Walnut Creek Concert Band will lead our city's 4th of July celebration during a 6 p.m. concert at Civic Park. I hope to see you all there. And again, happy summer. Thanks so much. Any questions?
First, I'd like to say that the Latin American festival you had at the Leisure Center was just wonderful. It was great to have all that on the street and have people stop by and view it, and I thank the city for putting that on. Any questions for Cindy? Okay. Ted.
So you mentioned something about restaurant incentives. Could you tell me a little bit more about how that works with the city?
We haven't finalized the program yet. During COVID, for example, we had a $150,000 grant program for businesses to help them stay open during COVID. We're not sure what we're going to do yet. Staff will be coming back to us within a month or so to outline the context of it, but we set aside $100,000 to basically incentivize outdoor dining, so restaurants to return to the streets and provide outdoor dining.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions for Cindy? All right, thank you, Cindy. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck with your travels.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Adrian, I'm sorry for the interruption. If you could resume your report.
It's better now that I've had a little chance to get my screen open so I can actually see what I'm talking about. Year to date, we are essentially on budget. Revenue is almost exactly on budget. Personnel expenses are somewhat below due to staffing shortfalls. Operating expenses are also somewhat below expected, and that's mostly due to seasonal effects, where our budgeting process works such that we make it uniform throughout the year at the present time, but of course we actually spend less money on air conditioning and watering during the early months of the year. So as a result, at this point, we have a surplus of over $832,000. But that probably will go down as air conditioning and watering costs increase over the next part of the year. With that, I'll turn it over to Todd to go into any details, which I'm sure he will.
Board, good morning, everyone. Yeah, it's just to kind of capitalize on what Adrian was saying. As we've tried to put more seasonality, obviously, into the mutuals budgets, you know, our budget is still mostly divided by 12 months at a time, right? So just to highlight a couple examples, can you go ahead and do the next page real quick? You know, if you look at our revenue side, so for example, just to give you guys some context, you know, it shows that golf revenue is down, right? Well, so that's Mark's golf revenue is obviously one of those situations where it's just budgeted in equal installments. Obviously, January and February are lower than the summertime months, so that's not a variance we should really be concerned about. We just watch it through the summer, and he'll catch up on that. Another good example is, go ahead and go to the next one. On the expense side, if you flip over to that, keep going, one more. Thanks. Where you'll see some of the bigger variances up in, like you'll see the big one on very top of the page, facilities maintenance. So for example, is trust maintenance. So when we look at how we budget that expense, $62,000 a month, even though a large portion of that would be, that comes in the fall, and it's one big piece. So that's not really a surplus to the $250,000, and that's going to be caught up. So just to kind of give you some context on that. Obviously, when we move into next year with our new planning budgeting tool, we're going to add seasonality into our budget. We're going to have the capabilities to look at prior year averages and add, increases to it, but it's going to take away a lot of the questions that we get earlier in the year when we have these budget variances. So, but I will say to go along also with what Adrian said, we're in a pretty good place right now, right, in terms of there's no real surprises to this other than the reporting side. Certainly we have turned the corner, as we talked about on NetSuite. I'm very, very excited about where we are right now. We still have some ground to make up in terms of timing, but we're really at a place where we're going to start seeing just every month more and more gains in our ability. And for the people that have been able to meet with me in my office, I think, and you actually see what I see in terms of giving us working tools to really monitor these and dig into this, we're going to continue to provide you all with more and more detail and variance analysis. So when we come to the board meetings going forward, we'll be able to speak to causation and variances in a much more detailed manner. So really good. So no real surprises on the RWC side, Rossmore Walnut Creek. I think we also have the RPM piece too, don't we? The other report. So then going to our other division, the property, there should be, not that. There should be one that's the same looking report for, no? No, that's all Golden Rain. I can speak to it though. So just on the other side, our property management division, let me just pull this up. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll just kind of speak to the Rossmore Property Management. So right now we have a total income of $3.9 million on a budget of basically $4 million. So we're running about $80,000 over in in terms of a surplus right now. Once again, pretty much right where we thought we'd be. Once again, there were some slight variances on the timing issues, but we're really just kind of tracking exactly where we should be. I apologize for this report. Can I just plug my laptop in? Is that possible? Well, it's the same slide as this, but it's a different report. Should have been. Does it keep going down maybe if it's attached, if they merged them, maybe? It would have been in there. I don't know if this will work or not. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, so if you look at this as the Rossmore Property Management, obviously our management fees will always track to budget because that's a pooled assessment. You'll see some slight variations. We do have other revenue sources that come in terms of billable revenue, but we're actually pretty much in a really good place. You also look at where we are in processing fees and document fees. This relates obviously directly to where we are in a favorable position with the transfer fees. If you look at this time a year ago, those items were slightly down because we didn't have the sales. And so now that we're up a little bit, we're having more of the actual processing fee on the documents, more sales go through. So really quite favorable in terms of just, right where we thought we'd be in terms of health through April. I'm looking forward to obviously getting these caught up in June here really quick and being able to, talk to it next month. So any questions on the two snapshots?
Any questions for Todd? Okay.
All right.
I have a question that's not here, although just a petty thing, Todd.
Yeah.
On the P&Ls, you show actual to the left and budget to the right.
Yeah.
On these summary reports,
I
it shows
know,
budget
I
on
know.
the left and actually, it
Yes.
throws me every time, but
Yeah.
I'm anal about this stuff, so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
here's
that-
my question.
That'll be just fixing some of the report writing coming up. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Bugs me too.
So in the past, and I applaud your efforts to take care of the mutuals as a priority, and you were trying to get the mutual audits done before the Davis Sterling due date of April 30th. I'm wondering where we are on that. And then I'm wondering on the RWC audit, you got an extension from the bank for June 30th, which is in a couple days here. Are we going to be in compliance, or are we have any issues with the bank on that?
We have no issues with the bank. I've spoken to the bank. They're fine. We are actually really close to having those done. So we should have the drafts here in a couple weeks. So we're just, I think our part's done now, and we're just waiting for CBIZ to get back to us. In terms of the mutual audits, I'm going to start seeing drafts here this week. So those will also be all completed here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So even though we're slightly off, we're completely world ahead of where we were last year, and obviously with the change over to NetSuite too. So that is going to, we're going to have that done here pretty quick. So, and obviously from a prioritizing my group team, right? The audits are in the background as a high priority. Our GRF audit's a high priority, and then obviously still we're working on 3 implementations. So, just.
Great, thank you. So by next month, we won't even have to talk about this.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Todd? Okay, thanks very much.
You bet.
All right, moving on to the general manager report. Jeff, if you could give your report.
Yes, good morning, everybody. A few more announcements than anything else. We are coming up on the 4th of July, and this is one of our largest annual celebrations that is hosted here in Rossmore for members and all of your family, friends, and so forth to come gather and celebrate over at Dollar Park. This is a event that is really spearheaded by the Recreation Department, and it has participation by custodial, AV, maintenance, transit, and landscaping. All of those departments come together and provide a little piece of it, but really led by Recreation. So I'd like to recognize those folks and thank them for giving up a portion of their July 4th celebrations to be here and host that event. It is an event that has a lot of clubs that perform and host different events. It'll have Hawaii State Club dancers. It'll have the Rotary Club providing meals, the Lions Club with refreshments. It runs from 10 a.m. to 2, and then there will be an evening performance at the event center featuring Jared Freiberg and the Vagabonds, which starts at 7 o'clock. We do have transportation provided, a shuttle service from Gateway to Dollar, and it will run from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if congestion is in the parking lot down there at Dollar, please take the shuttle. And there will also be some food trucks available as well. So really good event to come enjoy. Last month, I wrote an article about being able to recognize some of our high-performing employees, asking members to come forward and let us know when you see somebody doing something above and beyond what their normal duties may be. We want to encourage that type of service. We want to also create a work environment that is rewarding and something that we can help with our retention process. We had a great response thus far, and I actually want to just take a second and read a few of the responses that are received. One came in that says, we want to nominate Marcia and Leticia at Gateway Front Desk. They both greet people warmly and make every effort to help and answer questions. Their friendliness is the best marketing you could ask for in promoting Rossmore. I wholeheartedly recognize Megan Decker from Room Reservations. With the numerous issues securing rooms in the recent past, I used to dread having to contact this department and seldom got a timely response. Our organization has over 500 members and at least one reservation every week. Once I met Megan, things changed, and now I look forward to the opportunities to interact and solve issues. Our organization has unique needs, and Megan makes the process less tedious and stressful. She is professional, efficient, and truly a pleasure to work with. James from Custodial sets up the AV for B'nai Israel most Friday evenings in the Vista Room. I volunteer to perform Zoom streaming, and James makes sure the audio is perfect. He always has a smile, shows interest in our Jewish services, and is a pleasure to work with. I would like to nominate Bob Huff for Employee of the Month. He is a fitness trainer at the Tice Fitness Gym. In addition to having had several training sessions on the gym equipment, I attend his biweekly aquatics class. He is an excellent teacher and very skilled. And then this one for Annalise Huggard. I reached out at 7:01 a.m. on 5/1/25 via email regarding the senior exemption for school tax bills in the event Measure T passes, and Ms. Huggard responded by 8:15 that same day. She had spoken to the county and emailed me not only the full explanation of why co-ops do not apply to this exemption, but the math showing the amount per unit per year and how Walnut Creek School exemption is calculated and how the Akalani's exemption is calculated. She included the tax bill for the First Walnut Creek Mutual and assured me I could share this information with neighbors as questions were very popular. I was highly impressed with Ms. Huggard's speed and diligence in responding to my emails and feel she deserves recognition. And there are many others that came in. So great response, and definitely appreciate folks sharing, and we will share these with the employees that receive those over the time. And this process is still available. We have boxes at all of the clubhouses for people to continue those nominations. Last item is we're trying to publicize as many ways as possible for people to stay informed and provide input. Of course, we rely on volunteers, and this is a volunteer-driven community. So there are many ways that people can stay connected and find out what is going on. If you go to rossmore.com under residents and the board, there is a link to all of the committees and how you can provide input and feedback through the process. We're also going to be publishing in the near future an article or a flyer that provides all of the ways that people can get information, share their opinions, thoughts, ideas with the board and with other communities committees as well. So look forward to that, and we want to hear from you. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? All right, I think we'll move on to the residents forum. Mary?
Thank you. We have two members for participating in the forum today. First will be Kathleen Bridgman, followed by Nancy Munson.
Members are entitled to speak during the designated open forum portion of this meeting, whether attending in person or via Zoom. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. If speaking on behalf of another member, additional instructions provided on the forum slips must be followed. All speakers must clearly state their full name and Rossmore address before beginning their comments. Please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. By attending and participating in this meeting, including during the open forum, each attendee agrees to and releases the Rossmore Walnut Creek from all liability for their voice and or likeness being recorded and broadcast for any lawful purpose without compensation. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Kathleen Bridgman, and I live at 2100 Skycrest Drive, number 4. When I moved to Rossmore in 2018, it was following a 40-year career in organizational development. Recently, I've been thinking about the benefit that a strategic plan could bring to our Rossmore community, and I wrote an essay making that case. I discussed this and shared the essay with our board member, Janet Selden, and she encouraged me to send it to all of you, to the full board, which I did on June 10th. 2 days later, I got a response from Janet explaining that we did not need a strategic plan and that we were doing strategic planning on an ongoing basis. This told me that I failed to make my case explaining the difference between strategic planning and ongoing planning. I can tell you from my deep experience that a strategic plan is a foundational component of good governance. Strategic planning informs our ongoing planning. I know you want the best for our Rossmore community, and I appreciate all the hard work and planning that you do. And I'm simply asking that you look further into what a strategic plan actually is, as opposed to the ongoing careful planning that I know you do. You have told us many times that you want to hear from Rossmore residents, and so I'm speaking to you from my experience in helping organizations succeed, and I'm just asking you to give this some more thought and discussion. And I'd be happy to talk further with anybody who wants more information about what a strategic plan might do for this community. Thanks so much for listening.
Nancy Munson, 3223 Rossmore Parkway, Unit Number 2. Good morning. This past June 8th and 9th, we held the 3rd annual Pickleball for Parkinson's Tournament fundraiser. I'm proud to say P4P just keeps getting better and better. This year, our theme was to celebrate joy. The joy we have playing pickleball, the joy within our community, and the joy in giving to help those in need. I'm joyfully pleased to announce on a lofty goal of $100,000, we donated to the Michael J. Fox Foundation $111,000. My purpose today is to thank all those who helped make this achievement possible. It would not have been possible without the outpouring generosity from the members of the Rossmore Pickleball Club, the players, all the volunteers, the donors, and fundraisers. I want to thank the impressive list of sponsors we had, a whopping 34 sponsors contributing just over $29,000. I'm excited to announce this year we had 10 Rossmore clubs participate, from either making monetary donations directly to the Michael J. Fox Foundation to donating items to our silent auction or donating to enrich the event experience. It was wonderful and greatly appreciated to see how we came together as a community to help those affected with Parkinson's. In addition, we had many generous local businesses, along with Rossmore artists and craftsmen, contribute to both our silent auction and prize drawing. And last but not least, thank you to all the Rossmore residents who donated along with their family and friends. With a heartfelt thank you to all, we have shown the power of joy. Thank you.
Deborah, are there any online?
There are no Zoom speakers. That concludes the member forum.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the resident member committee reports. Dan Ring for the Finance Committee. We could get your report.
Good morning. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday, and we reviewed the April 2025 preliminary financial statements. As Todd stated, we seem to be in fairly good shape. There are still these are still preliminary. He has some more analysis to do, but we're in pretty good shape, and we hope to see in the next meeting the 2024 audited statements and the May statements. The MTF sales that generated a fee for May 2025 were just 3 units less than May 2024. We are still 15 units and $303,000 ahead of 2024's pace, but the favorable variance that we built up in the first quarter is slowly shrinking in April, May, and we don't know what the trend is going to continue. Excuse me. The committee had a significant discussion regarding the budget principles for RWC. A motion was made and seconded that the Finance Committee recommends that the budget principles for RWC, as amended by the Finance Committee, be recommended for approval. A motion was made and seconded that the Finance Committee hereby recommends that the Board approve the RPM budget principles as presented. A motion was made and seconded that the Finance Committee hereby recommends that the Board approve the 2026 budget calendar as presented. Lastly, the Finance Committee would like to acknowledge outgoing committee member Alice Lau for her long-term service to our committee. Alice is stepping down due to term limits. Alice's insight and perspective will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody have questions for Dan? Okay, we're going to move on to the adoption of the budget principles. I'm not really quite sure how to proceed with that. Should we have Todd present that?
Yeah, if Todd could come up. And the Finance Committee did have some significant discussion in relation to the budget principles, particularly on the screen here in relation to items 6 and 7 and 8.
And then they added 20.
And they added 20. So Todd, you want to go over those?
Yeah. Okay. So the Finance Committee, as you can see on here, they wanted to make a couple modifications to the language on 6 and 7. On 6, they wanted to strike out where we had could accrue to the operations budget in turn reduce the annual RWC coupon amount to just state new sources of revenue which could benefit the overall operations. A slight change in language, probably, basically speaking to be more in balance versus just, focusing on coupon reduction. And basically that same language mirrored in point number 7. So those were the first two changes. And in terms of, I think, Leanne, how to go forward with this, if, we can, I don't know, Deborah, in point of order in terms of approving the red line version here, not sure how that would work.
So you can review all of them at once or one at a time. It's up to the president how she would like to move forward. So you can address each one individually. It might be helpful to take it in small bites and then address each proposed recommendation.
Well, does anybody have any particular questions about the budget principles?
I have a
Janet.
question. So the part you're crossing out about reducing the coupon amount, did you cross that out because you don't think that's a realistic thing to ever say? Or I'm just curious why you scratched it out.
Perhaps I could respond to that.
Sure.
This was brought up by one of the members of the Finance Committee who has a great deal of experience in large corporations, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. And she was pointing out that there's a lot of reasons why we have the coupon. The coupon goes to a whole lot of different purposes. And our overall objective is not to reduce the coupon. Our overall objective is to provide services at a certain level. Now, we don't want to increase the coupon unnecessarily, that's not the point, but the idea of focusing on simply reducing it is in fact unrealistic given our situation. Inflation occurs. It's unlikely that we can in fact do that. And so this was a sort of a more legitimate way of stating that what we're trying to do here is benefit the overall operation in a balanced manner. And that was her motivation for the changes in 6 and 7.
Can I make a quick comment? I attended the Finance Committee meeting, although I'm not on it, and they had a very well-reasoned discussion about this matter, and I think several of the members questioned the language about reducing the coupon because they didn't want to seem like we were promising that would happen for our members and residents. So I just wanted to note that, and I also would like to commend the staff because we went back and forth yesterday about getting all these changes into one document so you could see what was there and what was redlined and what was new. So I think for purposes of a good evaluation of the changes, I appreciate the staff work to get this redline version out. Thank you.
Yeah, and to go along with that one, just so you guys can also follow along, number 8 was really the same exact change in tone and language, where we're originally referring to opportunities to employ productivity, and eliminate program activities, basically to also kind of reword that into the budget process. We'll also review any prior year programs, but to take that, once again, that language out that is 100% directed at that we're looking at just to reduce the coupon, looking at overall efficiencies for the sake of the benefit of the organization as a whole.
Any other questions, Dwight?
So back to my sticking points. The title of the document doesn't refer to it being operating budget. And many times we get confusion with members and residents not understanding that the operating budget drives the coupon and the capital budget is driven by MTF for member transfer fees. So I'm just wondering if we could incorporate in the title operating budget principles.
Absolutely, I have no issue
Yeah,
with that at all.
it's a great idea. And for the benefit of the residents, we do this on an annual basis before we start the budget cycle. So this is just a renewal of what we agreed the principles are going to be as we enter that cycle. So it could be a little confusing to some. Dwight.
So another item of confusion then is item number 5, talks about the long-range comprehensive capital improvement plan. Well, really? I mean, what is that, and is that a part of operating or is that a part of capital?
Not to just throw an audible here, but, obviously I think, Dwight, to the educational confusion, given that really we have 3 separate parts within our, our RWC umbrella, and we have budget principles for the operating. To your point, we should name this operating, and we have budget principles for our smart property management. It probably behoove us to have a third one for the trust and strike the language from this one so there's no confusion and add it to a modified trust.
So item 5 is specifically related to the trust facility property maintenance, which is included in the operating budget and funded by the coupon, and it reflects on the long-range comprehensive capital improvement plan. That probably could be cleaned up. It's more the overall identified maintenance plan rather than the capital plan. So we could probably improve the language there, but it's meant to reflect on the trust facility property maintenance.
So can we change that language?
Yeah, we could take out the long-range comprehensive capital improvement plan and
just a period after programs.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or recommendations? All right, do we have a motion?
Well, let's see, we didn't talk about 20.
Number 20?
Yeah. And so 20 was added because in the past, we have had some difficulty quite understanding how we deal with surplus or a deficit from the prior year. And it wasn't explicitly called out here. And so the attempt of the new 20 is to specifically say the audit has to be finalized, and then we take that audit or surplus, or that surplus or deficit from previous years, because it could be 2 or 3 years that are involved here, and we incorporate that into our budget process, so that, because overall, over a long period of time, we have to operate essentially at 0 surplus, 0 deficit. And so bringing that number into the budget cycle each year after the audit is done. We can't do it on a guess. We can't do it on until we actually have a final number. But we should have such a number at that time.
That's a very good explanation. Thank you. Any other changes? Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board accept the budget principles, as amended, including changing the title to operating budget principles.
Deborah, are you clear with that?
Just the document heading.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. And as amended by changing the title to include operating budget principles, and item 5 to put a period after programs. And strike the rest of the sentence.
I'll second that.
Thank
you. Okay. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamaji?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Laird?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, moving on to the RPM budget principles. Todd, did you have anything to add for that?
I don't. They were
Okay.
agreed as stated,
All right.
or recommended from the Finance Committee as stated.
Any questions or modifications to that? Okay. Do we have a motion for that?
I hereby move that the board accept the RPM budget principles as presented.
Second. Ted? And any further discussion? All right, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamaji?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the calendar, the budget calendar for 25-26. I don't know that we need any discussion, but anybody have any questions about that? Dwight?
So Todd, to build on what you said, having a capital budget principles would be helpful, as well as a capital budget timeline and calendar, so that everybody understands it's a different timing to that process, and they can have input along the way if it's more publicized.
Drafted.
Okay, is there a motion for the calendar?
I have a question.
Aye.
Oh, Carol.
So when we look at this, should we amend the title to say 2026 Operating Budget Calendar?
Yes.
Good catch, Carol.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board accept the 2026 budget calendar as proposed, with the amendment that that the title be changed to 2026 Operating Budget Calendar.
Okay.
Second.
Mary seconds it. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamaji?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Todd.
You bet.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 8B, which is the Golf Advisory Report. And we have Pat Iaculo here. Thank you, Pat, for giving your report.
Good morning. The Golf Advisory Committee meets every month, as you know, and the report from this past June's meeting was that we have a total of 747 active members. That's a growth of about 14 members from the previous month. Also, the committee has reviewed the Golf Advisory Committee charter, and it will be forwarded, and the revised recommendations will be forwarded to Deborah for review and be provided to the RWC board for their review and approval. A nomination review committee was convened on June 11th to review candidates to fill the opening that we have for a non-RWC board member. The candidate was chosen and requested to be approved by the RWC board president. Next item is that representatives of the GAC committee reviewed the Dollar Ranch restrooms, as we discussed at our last meeting, and have provided a punch list of items that are requested for repairs. A copy of this has been given to Mark Heptick for his review and then forwarding to the RWC board. And then finally, further to the above, the GAC committee has suggested that a cleaning log be provided for each golf course restroom for review by the custodial supervisory personnel. That assures that the person who is assigned to do the cleaning actually does it. That's a common thing in public facilities. And that's it.
Any questions for Pat? Okay, thank you very much, Pat. Next, we'll move on to the Compensation Committee, and Carol Lair, the chair of that committee.
So the Compensation Committee meeting was held on June 11th, and Deborah provided an overview of the committee charter and basic parliamentary procedures.
Arnold gave a staffing report, and then the committee discussed the 2026 base wage increase and the CPIU and the 2026 merit market pool. Because the April CPIU was only 1.3%, and that was notably low and not aligned with current labor market pressure, the committee decided to wait until we get the June CPIU report and hope that that number will go up. So we decided to wait for that report, and we're going to meet again in July 17th to discuss that. Also, since the market merit pool is dependent on that base wage increase, these discussions were also deferred until the July 17th meeting. So we moved the meeting in July from July 9th to July 17th, 16th, sorry, July 16th, so that we can get the results on the June report for the CPIU. That's it.
Okay, any questions for Carol? All right, thank you, Carol. We'll move on to planning. And Dwight, you want to give your report?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I want to say that Janet Selden was elected vice chair. Thank you, Janet, and welcome to the Planning Committee. Ann Matola provided an update on capital projects that are underway, the largest one being the pickleball project. Bids are being received, and the committee will be reviewing them at our August meeting. A large portion of the meeting was devoted to a review of the food and beverage project. Synergy submitted their 159-page report for your reading pleasure on their efforts to assist Rossmore in enhancing what is one of the most important amenities for all of our residents. The committee reviewed the request for proposal and unanimously recommended that the RWC board issue a request for proposal for the operation and management of Creekside Restaurant. And we'll have more information on this later in the meeting. Lastly, the committee discussed goals for the upcoming committee year. The first to be tackled will be updating the facilities master plan over the next couple of months in time for the RWC Capital Fund budget discussions in October. We have a great committee, and I look forward to everyone's contributions over the upcoming year.
Okay, any questions for Dwight? All right, well, thank you, Dwight. We'll move on to Ann Matola and the overview of the RFP for Synergy.
Hello. Yes, so as Dwight said earlier this month, we received the final report from Synergy, and just to catch people up on what that was and how it informed the second phase that the RFP came out of, I'd just like a couple of minutes to talk about what that first study was about and why it was important. So what we needed to do was to really look at the feasibility of expanding the food service within Rossmore, and it was equally to address the resident needs, but also to make sure that this was possible from a business standpoint. Because we can want a lot of things, but to bring an operator in here, we needed to make sure that they could operate a successful business. So because of that, the phase one focused on really assessing the needs of the residents through surveys, small group discussions, and then the town hall. And also, parallel to the community engagement process was a lot of the assessment of the costs, operations, developing financials, to kind of create what viable options would be based on what they also assessed, which were the existing food facilities and the facility conditions. So all of that information in that 159-page report informed the second scope of work, which included development of an RFP, and we're really excited because we're at the point where we're before you today to request approval to issue the RFP. Pending the approval today, it will be released on July 1 and close on August 15th. And just, and I've had a couple of inquiries about the process and if people were interested, how they could get in touch, how they could get a copy of the RFP. So Synergy is facilitating that process for us so that if they just send their information either to myself or Jeff or to the board email address, is it changed now to
RWC board at rossmore.com.
Rossmore.com, thank you. Thank you, Dwight. We will forward that to Synergy and they'll reach out with the process steps and whatnot. But again, it'll be open from July 1st through August 15th, and the intent is to go through a selection process and hopefully have an operator on board early October, or in October, I believe. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ann? Okay, seeing none. Roll call, please, Deborah.
We have a motion. We need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do need a motion. Is there a motion? Ted?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the issuance of the RFP for operations and management of Walnut Creek Restaurant.
Okay, is there a second? Mary seconds. Further discussion? Okay, seeing
Ted,
none.
excuse me, but Ted, you said Walnut Creek Restaurant. Did you mean Creekside Restaurant?
Creekside.
Did I say Walnut Creek? I thought it, okay, Creekside.
Oh, good catch. Thank you.
I'm fine.
All right, further discussion? Roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamachi?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you, Ann. We'll move on to Policy Committee. Mary Hurt, could you give an overview?
Thank you. The Policy Committee met on June 16th. Susan Hildreth was elected as vice chair. Deborah Rose basically explained how the charter works and the parliamentary procedure that is required. She emphasized that only agenda-listed items may be discussed during a meeting to ensure public transparency. If a new item arises, then it needs to be postponed to a subsequent meeting. As far as new business goes, Director of Communications Ann Peterson presented a proposed change to Policy 6012 to rename Residence Forum to Member Forum.
So I wanted to explain a little bit about how this came about. So last month, the board decided to change the name of Residence Forum for public speaking during the meetings to Members Forum, so that that's in line with the legal requirement that only members speak at meetings. Policy asks that we take a look at whether or not to change Residence Forum to Members Forum in the newspaper, and also then only permit actual owners, members, which are owners, shareholders of co-ops, or designated occupants, to be the writers of those letters. So the committee discussed it, and they did agree that they want to put that recommendation forward. Just want to explain some of the reasons why they've done that. First of all, it was for consistency purposes. In the meetings now you will have only members in a members forum, but in the paper you would still have residents in a residence forum. There was concern about confusion as to who could do what. The second reason was because the trust agreement states that RWC is managing the assets for the mutuals and their members, not for residents. It doesn't distinguish out. The committee also talked about the fact that they want to hear from the stakeholders in Rossmore, and those are your owners, your shareholders, and your designated occupants. There's also one thing to keep in mind. We have precedents of keeping a distinction between our members and residents. You see that in the fact that residents are not permitted to run for office, to sign a petition for candidates, to vote in elections. You also see it in the fact that we charge a facility usage fee to renters, because one of the reasons that you do that is under the way that it is written, both an owner and a renter can take advantage of our amenities. That would be the case in the newspaper as well. So you could have an owner and a renter submitting a letter to the editor at the same time. So if you make the change in this policy, you restrict it to members only, then that then puts that shift in emphasis again on the owners, the shareholders, and the designated occupants. And this is a first reading.
Any discussion? Janet?
So I understand there was only a couple non-members who wrote letters in the last, whatever that report was, 6 months or a year, I can't remember.
There were two non-members in a 6-month period.
So we're not talking about an overwhelming change, and I don't know what those letters were about. We didn't discuss that, but I also wonder how much staff time it takes for you to figure out if someone is a member, a resident, or a designated occupant, since we don't have a seamless system for you to check.
So we actually do have a system with the newspaper that's very seamless. We are able to go into member records, and I do this because, again, it is restricted to residents. I have had some folks who have moved out and still tried to write letters to the editor, or who live just outside the gate but wanted to be here eventually writing letters to the editor. So I do check and verify the residency. So the only difference now would be when I'm opening the member record, instead of looking to see if they live here, I'd be looking to be sure that they are either an owner or the designated designated occupant.
And you don't...
So no additional time. It's the same process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Dwight, and then Susan.
So, this is interesting. I mean, Rossmore Walnut Creek News is a community newspaper. It is not a member newsletter. And so I'm wondering, I don't hear any prohibition on there being a difference between members forum in official business meetings versus a community newspaper accepting letters from residents. I do think it's important that residents, whether they're renters or designated occupants or even caregivers, submitting letters to the newspaper is a healthy thing.
You asking rhetorically? What?
That wasn't a question, it was an opinion.
Okay. So I'd like to support Dwight's rhetorical opinion. I understand that there could be some confusion. I don't think the inconsistency between the official board and committee meetings and the newspaper, a community newspaper, is necessarily that problematic. We don't have many requests, so there's not a lot of people doing that anyway. And denying that seems to me to further restrict ways for our residents to communicate with us. So I share the concern that I don't think it would have a huge impact if we left it the way it was, and it would continue to give an opportunity for those who are not owners or shareholders to make comments.
I would just add that no matter who is the resident, they can always write us at RWC board at rossmore.com. They can also meet with us. So there's no limitation on reaching us or speaking to us directly. The forum and the paper is just that. It's not talking to a board member. It's projecting an opinion throughout the community. So I would say that we're not limiting conversations between general membership or general residency and the board. Adrian.
I would like to agree with Dwight as well, that I feel like this just adds a sense of exclusion that is unnecessary. It's something of a tempest in a teapot in my mind, and I don't think we should do it.
I would like to then think about the fact that in the newspaper, it's called residence forum, whereas opposed to the member forum here, it's considered member forums. So if we do this, there's a clear distinction between when members are speaking and when those who live in Rossmore are speaking.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, this is a first reading, so we'll see it again next month in July. Thank you, Ann. Okay, let's see. All right, I think we'll move on to item 10, unfinished business. I'm sorry, there is no unfinished business. We'll go to item 11, which is considering a resolution to have the general manager and the CFO sign and act on behalf of the organization. And Jeff, could you address that?
Sure. This is just a update of our banking resolution that was reviewed by our general counsel and Mechanics Bank to make sure that it is in compliance with their rules. If there's any specific questions, Todd can come down and address that as well. He's been in contact with both the bank and our general counsel.
Dwight.
So there were a couple things in this that drew questions to my mind. Item 1C2 says automated teller card access for any accounts. Ooh, never seen that in any corporate resolution. And the perception that Todd and Jeff can go to the ATM machine is not a good image. So my question is, has the audit committee or our external auditors reviewed this document in regards to internal controls? Maybe legal's okay, but I don't think the auditors would.
Yeah, the legal. So I'm getting, per our conversation, Dwight, CBiz is reviewing this a second time. I just want to speak to the ATM piece. The ATM piece is not, and I recommend we're going to change that language or clarify that language. It's really the use of purchasing cards, not ATM cards. So cards that do not have the ability to go to a bank and withdraw funds on, but cards where we can eventually have savings and get cash back from using purchasing cards for, instead of writing checks for office supplies and things like that. So it's the use of a P card versus an actual ATM card, and we can redo that language.
I'm sorry, could you clarify that CBiz has not looked at this, or they have?
They are currently reviewing it right now.
Currently reviewing. So would that mean that
in the past, just so you know, in the past it wasn't run by the auditors, it was run by the bank and their internal controls from the banking standpoint and our legal counsel. So we sent it off to CBiz for the review, but this has never been put forth to the audit committee. It's something we can obviously discuss.
Okay, do we have any problem with approving this prior to CBiz review?
So
yes.
Just to your point, item 2 could simply be removed from this. That refers to specifically to automated teller cards. That wouldn't really impact our use in the future of P cards, as Todd just described.
But if CBiz is going to make adjustments to this, do we need this today, or could we live until next month and get this adjusted properly?
Does the bank need this immediately to continue business, or?
No, I mean, they're okay with where we are right now, given that you and I are on the statement of information and everything. I will circle back if they actually have to have if we have to have something immediately, I'll get back to them. They did not indicate that it was something that would hold up any of our current processes.
So we will bring this back then, pending comment by CBiz and the audit committee.
Okay.
And Jeff, I agree with you. We can just strike that section on that one you just mentioned.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Moving on to 11B, Deborah, could you give us an overview of that?
Absolutely. Pardon me. So each year there are vacancies in the resident advisory committees. These vacancies were announced in the Rossmore News in the month of May. Interviews transpired in the month of June. And the interviews took place by the RWC president, the treasurer, at times the chair of the committee, the vice chair, and the liaison of the committee, which is a board member. So after all of these interviews took place, recommendations were made by the president as listed in the packet. The resident member committee appointments will be for 3-year terms effective July 1st, 2025. This is for the Aquatics and Fitness Advisory Committee, the Audit Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Golf Advisory Committee. And so we're looking for a motion to approve those members as listed.
Before we get into the motion, I want to just announce that we had 22 applicants for these positions. That's higher than last year. So I am thrilled to see residents wanting to step forward and volunteer to be a part of RWC governance. And I commend those that applied. I'm very impressed with the applicants and their desire to get involved. So that's a really good thing. So thank you, everybody. And thank you for the interviewers. I was telling Deborah, I apologize to the applicants because it's a little like speed dating. It's like every 15 minutes a client. So I realize it's a little grueling for some. So, but thank you. All right. Do we have a motion for the committee?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the new resident committee members as stated in the board packet. Their term to begin July 1st, 2025 for a 3-year term.
Okay. Do we have a second? Mary seconds it. And further discussion. All right, roll call, please.
Certainly. Hamaji?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Perch?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Lair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, and along with that, I would like to make the appointments of the chairs for a 1-year term for the following committees. Barry Devine for Aquatics and Fitness Advisory Committee. Dan Ring as the interim audit committee, interim chair of the audit committee. Dan Ring as the chair of the finance committee, and Burke Ferrari as chair of the golf advisory committee. I thank all of those people for taking a lead and volunteering their effort and time. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item. Well, actually, at this point, I think we'll take a 5-minute break. So we'll come back at 10:16. Okay, we will resume the meeting. And we will start with, where are we? 11C. Jeff, you want to launch the discussion about goals?
Yes. So this is a multi-phase process, but every year the board adopts some goals that really are meant to provide guidance and set the overall tone for the board calendar year. The process begins during a retreat that the board just had on June 10th, where a number of items of interest is discussed and a brainstorming session takes place to identify various areas of goals. That list is then brought back to the board because no decisions are made during the retreat. So it's brought back in pretty raw format for the board to discuss and consider. That is attached in your packet, and I'll go over the list here that was generated. The board certainly at this point can identify 2, 3, 4 of those items and identify those as potential goals. We will then take those and put them into SMART goal format. So we provide some measurement and various steps in achieving those goals and bring those back to you during your July meeting to formally adopt. And they take place then throughout the identified calendar year for the board. These goals lead into decisions regarding the budget, if there's any budgetary implications to achieving those goals, and really guide any future decisions. So some of the items that were identified include, and again, these are in the packet, through Rossmore Property Management, coordinate discussions and identify opportunities for infrastructure upgrade available to the mutuals for their evaluation and consideration. Through Rossmore Property Management, identify opportunities to streamline common services available to mutuals for their consideration and benefit. This item is actually taking place right now through our discussions with the management agreement. Update the facilities master plan. This is an item that is going to be before the planning committee already. Evaluate opportunities for collaboration, funding, services, and technology related to public safety and disaster preparedness. evaluate water conservation opportunities, including non-functional turf removal, as well as coordination and advocacy efforts to promote access to recycled water, enhance member access to online services, support recognized Rossmore clubs by identifying common interest and providing resources to help facilitate positive volunteer experience, develop metrics to assist in the evaluation and reporting of programs and services available to members, maintain legislative advocacy on issues of interest to Rossmore, Walnut Creek, and the mutuals, in coordination and support of the mutuals and the insurance task force, evaluate options for insurance coverage, evaluate options to support the RWC portion of the coupon through alternative revenue opportunities. And that is the current list. Again, you can add to the list, modify the language as you deliberate, and we are happy to provide any additional input or answer questions.
Okay, thank you. This is, for me, laborious process. So it may not be, but Janet, go ahead and start off the discussion.
So since we know that some of these things are already being addressed, does it behoove us to pick things that are new or enhance what's already being addressed? Like, just a way to whittle it down, right?
Yeah, like Jeff mentioned, like the facilities master plan is already on the queue to evaluate or reevaluate. So I would say there are a couple here that we might be able to scratch out because those items are already in progress. So would we want to start with that to minimize? Dwight?
Or we could propose ones that we like. And there are three that I like, and I think we should go with three so that we don't overburden staff or the board with too many things. So I'd like to propose these three. The water conservation and recycling efforts that is more eloquently stated there. Enhancing member access to online services. That is a huge thing. It was a big part of the marketing that we need to take care of our residents better that way. And then evaluating options for insurance coverage. That is just huge and ongoing. Just my suggestions.
But we do have an ongoing insurance task force, correct? And this is their mandate, and I believe they are doing a good job and stay up to date, including on the legislative front. Is that part of their mandate?
Well, speaking as a member of that task force, yes, we are examining alternatives. I think we could be doing a more structured job of that. But I'm not sure that it really is a board goal so much as it is, because it's the mutuals that have the bulk of the insurance, right? And pay the bulk of the amount. And so it's not so much our goal as a board as it is maybe sort of an overall community goal to improve, but I don't know that we should have it as a board goal.
So just from my standpoint, I know there are some things that Jeff has been working on with sister communities and broader things that go well beyond what the insurance task force has been. And they don't have a mandate. I mean, they are making decisions on behalf or making recommendations to the mutual presidents, but there may be a bigger picture to be resolved here.
Well, we did consider that the larger organization of somehow putting together all the communities, but that's a long, long way off. And the idea of these goals is something that we could accomplish this year. And in terms of the insurance, it's very clear we have an opportunity to move the date when insurance starts each year right now. It starts on January 1st. Because that's a very popular date for organizations to renew their insurance. It turns out that causes a lot of, it's just difficult to get done. And so getting the best possible deal, et cetera, is harder if we try and do it on 1/1. So the proposal is to move it to 6/1 as the renewal date. And that would have the effect of potentially reducing our premiums or increasing our coverage. So it's a very desirable thing to do. The problem is a cash flow problem because you have to pay all the money up front. And so that would mean we're paying sort of like 16 months or 17 months of insurance in 12 months. And then that'd be difficult, especially for the mutuals. So staff right now is working diligently on figuring out a way to make that cash flow work. And I think that's really important.
So getting back to goals, putting that forward as a goal might show that there's a conscious effort to proceed with enhancing the insurance for the community. So that might be valid. Any other ideas?
Leanne, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, Dwight, I do agree with the first two. I think it's perfect. But I'm very interested in the idea of determining metrics of how things are achieved, what there is to put in plain some way of measuring how we accomplish, how we choose and accomplish from the member's point of view. So that would be a very attractive goal because once in place, we can continue to go forward with it. And the other is to basically, no, that'll be enough for that. But the idea being here that we say what a goal is, we basically measure the results on an ongoing basis.
I'd like to put forward the idea of the goal for water conservation. We had that on as our goal for the past 2 years, I believe. And water's in a very expensive expense. It's very expensive and it affects the coupon. And I think by working on that in coordination with the legislation that's coming on non-functional turf, I think that would be a very valid goal. Any other opinions? Adrian.
I would like to second Mary's desire to see more on the developing of metrics. I think that's an important thing. And it's something that, given that we have NetSuite, it enables that very, very readily. And so choosing the particular KPIs that we want, they have a list. There's 75 KPIs available off the shelf in the NetSuite system. And so choosing
Adrian,
which of those makes sense.
KPI is? Key performance indicator.
Key performance indicator, yeah. Don't ask me questions about words. So I feel that would be a very important thing this year, particularly.
So just a question in that regard. Saying metrics is like the universe. What specifically are we striving to monitor and measure? And I'll throw out one thing that I like to see: measurement of amenities. And we don't know if shuffleboard is coming back, or if horseback riding is making a comeback, or if we should bring the peacocks back. Metrics on amenity usage I think is more specific. I don't know how you feel about that.
Okay. Janet.
I support the idea of evaluating all our programs, amenities, services, as this bus transportation thing changes, as, anything. I think it gives us the ability, now that we can maybe get some other reports soon. I support that goal and the water conservation goal.
Let me speak a little bit more to the metrics here, because Rossmore is a changing community. Once we have something in place, we can understand the changing needs, desires, and preferences of residents in terms of how we budget, what we change. So to me, to actually know, not merely believe what's going on, could be very vital to our ability to do service.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, were you going to speak?
I was just going to mention that I do support the water as a goal. I think that's been a goal for several years. I also support the concept of looking at NetSuite, developing some KPIs, looking at metrics and evaluation of programs in general. And it's lofty for 1 year. To me, 1 year would be the start. And that might continue as some of these other goals have continued, because I think that evaluation of what's happening, what people want, how things are working, how things aren't working, could really help inform us in terms of how we want to use our resources and move forward. So I'd like to support that and the water. I also think the insurance is really important, and we probably could debate about that, but to me, the insurance is such a key issue for our community members. The cost of it, the safety of it. It's a key, I see it as a key matter, but there might be others that we would consider, but I'm certainly strong on metrics and water.
I'm very strong on insurance. I think, again, it's the whole community is concerned about insurance, and I think that's a really good goal for us to have to try and develop that. Water, for sure. To continue with that. And then I like the metrics also, but that online services for members is another one. And if we're going to try to narrow it to just 3, I'm back and forth on those 2.
Could we do a straw vote on the water conservation goal? How many people are in agreement with that? Okay, so we'll pencil that in. How about a straw vote on the insurance issue? How many feel that's important? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Okay, so we're still on the fence with that. How about the metrics issue? Okay. I would just be curious about the metrics issue. Like, how is that going to be measurable in a smart format? How would that happen?
As Dwight was kind of zeroing in on there, it would be good if we can get some guidance of what your interests are. Are you looking to measure utilization of amenities, services, and programs? Are you wanting to look at cost per resident of operating those? Are you looking at what a little bit more specific in terms of what it is you're looking to measure from those would help us refine these into some SMART goals?
Well, one very important service is room reservations. And as we know, there's been a lot of issues. So I want to keep a laser eye on what's going on with that, because clubs are still, having issues. And I just feel like we should be monitoring it as the new system comes online.
Mary.
The word to me in that develop metrics to assist is develop, because this is the beginning of a process to understand not only what we can measure and track and do something about. For instance, there are all sorts of information we could get which is not actionable, but this would be a start of a process to determine what we can measure and how it's developed. So to me, the most important part for this year is develop.
I'm sorry, I'm still not following how we would create a goal for metrics in general.
Well, for instance, to me, if as a group sitting together and saying, what do we need to know to make decisions about how residents are using facilities, enjoying programs, the whole schmear of being to say, what can we measure effectively and continuously, because 1 year is not going to do it. To me, this is an ongoing process as we change. For instance, with the recycling center, these are services. How how can we measure whether residents are continuing to use it more effectively and when? Because we may be having open hours at times, there's nobody there, and that's a cost we could avoid. So to me, it's not what I know at this point, but what I will learn in the developing process.
So Mary, maybe metrics on community services, which can include amenities and things like that. But when you start talking about KPIs in the whole financial world and all those things, that's a whole, opens up a whole other world. So what about metrics on community services?
Okay, that makes more sense to me. And to Susan's point, would the SMART goal be to, like, a preliminary way of developing a way to
The SMART
developing
goal.
a way to evaluate metrics in the future, because we don't know how NetSuite's going to roll out tools for us to use.
Well, but the key here is, what is the measurement? What the SMART goal is really focused, we should be focused on identifying a measurement. So you say room reservations are questionable and difficult. Okay, so how do we measure that? What particular things
Yeah, so it's
could
an
we
evaluation.
do? That's right. So the very first thing you have to do something of this sort is identify how you're going to measure it. Are you going to take a ruler and put it there? Are you going to stick a thermometer in somebody's mouth? What are you going to do? Okay.
This is a family show, Adrian. Please.
I noticed I stayed there. So I mean, it's all about identifying what that metric is, what the measurement is, and how you will go about it, how you will collect it, and how you will then be able to manage it and report on it. Okay.
So will we get a training? Will the board members get a training on what we can do with NetSuite?
Probably not.
I think just to clarify, NetSuite is not. It will provide the member data that we use. NetSuite is not our tool that we use for room reservations and everything else.
Yeah.
That tool will be coming in the near future in terms of what we're going to propose for that.
Yeah.
NetSuite is not that. NetSuite is more on the financial, the work orders, all of that side of the house, plus the member records.
Yeah. The one thing that NetSuite does have in this context is a platform that enables you to, in a uniform way, bring all of these metrics together and present a dashboard of financial here, some other thing here. You can bring all of that together through NetSuite. That's the nice thing about these kinds of ERP systems.
So Jeff, based on what Jeff just said, that idea that we're talking about of having metrics on community services, it doesn't sound like NetSuite's going to provide that.
No.
So do we still want that as a goal? I mean, how are we going?
Yeah.
Yes?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
NetSuite is not the temple of everything.
Okay, I just got the feeling like we collectively were expecting NetSuite to provide that
It's
information.
some other software.
Okay, Ted and then Susan.
Okay.
So what Dwight said there about community services, however you worded that one piece, that could encompass, at the time it's available, NetSuite could fit into that when it does. But until then, I still think that is a good goal for us to work on, because it's more specifically the board, what we can do for the residents.
Okay, can we, wait, Susan first
No,
and then
just
Dwight.
quickly, I was going to say that I think that's a very good definition of the area we want to focus on, and I think there are a number of systems we could use that wouldn't be too, I think we could find ways to evaluate that beyond NetSuite's capacity that would not be too difficult to utilize, and in fact, might even help our residents become more comfortable with online services. I know that was one of your priorities, because this would likely be an online mechanism in terms of providing feedback.
And I'll withdraw my support for enhancing online services, only from the standpoint that that's underway with myrossmore.com, and I think we understand that. So I will remove that from my list.
Can we have a straw vote on preliminary review of metrics for community services. Straw vote. Okay, there we go. So we have two. We have water conservation, developing metrics for evaluating community services. Let's talk about a third option, just to have another goal. Can you use your mic, please?
Isn't insurance still on that third three, list of three?
We only got 4 votes.
Well, we could redo the straw vote if you wish. I think it's important, but Ted, do you have your hands going?
There is one, third from the bottom there, maintain legislative advocacy and issues of interest for Rossmore and Walnut Creek and the mutuals. That would cover insurance. And it also covers many other things that we want to be looking at, such as anything that we can get help with, fire prevention, all that other stuff. There's a lot of things that could fit underneath that of what we were talking right here. So that could be that one, which would include insurance.
That's a very good point. And that's a very valid goal. We try to do that year to year. So could we have a straw vote on the legislative goal? All right. I think we might have finished. Go ahead.
It wasn't clear to me how final this was, and that was going to take the place of the insurance. I personally think having a goal specifically on insurance is important. That's not to say the legislative goal, which is a broader goal, shouldn't be there as well. And I think what I'm arguing for is 4 goals, which may not fly.
Here, here.
4 goals.
4 goals.
Insurance and legislative. Because I think calling out insurance is important, so. My comment.
Go ahead.
No, I'm doing a straw vote.
What is?
On what?
Straw vote.
4 goals.
4
just
goals.
as Susan said.
Okay.
Yes.
What if we combine the legislative item as well as the insurance item into one kind of statement? I think we can maneuver those into one.
Although my concern about the legislative one is I have difficulty seeing how that becomes.
Could you use your mic, please?
I'm sorry. I have difficulty with the legislative one because I have difficulty seeing how that could turn into a measurable, achievable. I mean, it's something we should be doing. I'm not saying that, but the opportunities come along as the legislature does things, and it's not like we can take action to accomplish it.
With you, Adrian, a couple of years ago, we had meetings with Senator Padilla's office, with, well, we tried with Senator Feinstein, but she died on us. And who else did we do? I mean, all the state senators and the state representatives, that's the sort of proactive activity that is measurable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Jeff is proposing using the legislative language with an emphasis on insurance. What's the opinion of that? Or we add a 4th goal? Okay.
I think combining them is good. I don't know how much difference that makes in terms of staff and what they have to put together. Or is it just as easy to keep them separate?
It would be just as easy to keep them separate if you'd prefer to do that. The workload or reporting is not that much different.
I think keeping it separate is better because it emphasizes insurance. So, okay, so we've got water conservation, working for metrics for community services, a legislative goal, and an insurance goal. Okay, we're all in agreement? Okay, so Jeff, can you work with those and develop the SMART goals based on those? Okay. Do we need a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, does anybody have a motion? Carol?
I move that we have as our SMART, or as our goals for this 2026, the water conservation, the insurance issue, developing metrics for community services, and working with the legislature.
Okay. Mary seconds it. Further discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamachi?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thanks, everyone. That was not as painful as I thought it was going to be. All right, we'll move on to 11D to select the, Jeff's calling them service level analysis. We used to call them deep dives. So please give us an overview, Jeff.
So in the past, we began this in 2019 with a initiative really that the board started as a way to gain more insight into specific departments and programs that are offered. And this was done in an effort to, because during the budget cycle, you really don't have a chance to get a whole lot of information on various departments before approving those budgets. This was an opportunity to look a little bit more in depth at individual departments. Over the years, the list of deep dives that has been presented is in the packet and displayed above. You've heard from just about every department, and several you've heard from a couple of times. During the board retreat, again, there is some discussion, and then it comes back to you in an open meeting for a consideration of what departments you want to have deep dives during the board year. We try and do this again before May. This year, the board discussed counseling services as an interest, but also instead of specific departments, wanted to have more of an overview or deep dive on upcoming software systems and services and online programs that may be available in the near future for residents. And that would include the My Rossmore overall platform as that becomes renewed, community services, including room reservations, golf and fitness, dwelling live, and transit, and I believe the work order desk as well. So these are new tools and systems that residents will have interaction with as we progress. So the idea would be to do a more deep dive presentation on what is available through those systems. I would caution a little bit that some of those definitely are not complete yet or even selected yet. So depending on those timelines would be when we could come back before you to give those presentations. So you can either go with those, certainly counseling services is an option, or if you'd like to add any different department as well.
Okay. Ideas? Dwight and then Carol.
So Jeff, just in terms of staff timeline, I mean, with the operating budget coming up and then followed closely by the capital budget, do you see, because we don't see a lot of those online services available really till first quarter next year, that this would be doable from a staffing timing standpoint?
So we would probably begin with the counseling services, and then after the new year is when we start to line up some of the other presentations. So depending on when they are available, we probably would be able to do the work order system, My Rossmore as it is evolving. It may be a work in progress. The same with the other programs as well. They may be more of works in progress, but we can certainly do those deeper dive presentations so the community and the board knows what is available as resources.
Carol and then Janet.
Well, basically what Jeff said. But I really think the counseling is really a good one, because I think that is a service that we provide that our residents and members don't really know nearly enough about. They're kind of got a little office somewhere, and that's about what people, oh, we have a counseling office, they don't even know. So I think that's really important to get that done in the next, little while. And then go on, as Jeff said, with the others as they come available.
I agree about the counseling department. However, because of all these changes coming with water conservation and changes in law and my interest in upgrading some of the picnic areas, the Stanley Dollar, I'd like to hear from landscape more, because I only hear things because I'm involved with my mutual, but sort of community-wide what we're looking at with these changes in the law about watering, and are we doing enough lawn removal? Do we have to pressure the mutuals? Look, you have to do so many a year to get up to speed, so we're not, having just a bunch of dead grass everywhere. Anyone else concerned about that?
So you're talking more about a function versus landscaping in general.
Part of landscape, yeah, the part that deals with the new laws and stuff.
All right.
I agree with the landscaping, because we do have laws that will be going into effect over the next few years, which we probably first need to be aware of, and secondly, understand what RWC has to do and how that affects the mutuals. So I would definitely be for the landscaping. And we have to learn things, because it will be a different world.
It's been a while since we've had a presentation from Landscape, so that was 2019.
2023.
I believe landscaping has been done 3 times within those. And just keep in mind, too, there's 2 different divisions of landscaping. There's the Rossmore Walnut Creek landscaping, and then there's the division that does all of the mutuals and works with those. So the deep dive we've done is more focused on the RWC side of things, which you have control over. But we can certainly address what is done. How do we alert the mutuals and work with the mutuals when there is legislation that we need to address? So that's certainly an option. The other thing I wanted to add to the list is in the packet. All of these are available on rossmore.com. So at any time, if anybody wants to go back and review any of the PowerPoint presentations that were done, or the presentations, they are available on rossmore.com as well.
Dwight, and then Janet.
And then I have one.
So I'm going to go with Janet. I might just modify a little bit to include Firewise, because it's the Firewise and the functional, non-functional turf issue that's affecting all of the residents, all of the owners.
Yes.
So I'd love to see it.
Okay, Janet, and then Mary.
Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, the other one I would like to suggest is accounting, because we will have gone through an entirely new system that affects the mutuals, the board, everything. And I'm sure that when Todd is at the place where it's working like we know it will be, we need to understand what's possible, what's not possible, and things like that. And I think it would be delightful to hear the effects on the staff as well as on all the paper reduction and things of this nature. So I would love to have a deep dive on accounting toward the end of our season.
Just the other pitch I have on landscaping is that I feel like, especially like in the President's Forum, where we're supposed to have some kind of role, to have more support for mutuals to work together, efficiencies, saving money maybe on some of these big projects. I don't know how it would work. We'd need RPM involved, but that's part of why I believe the landscape also is important.
Okay, we have to keep in mind the separation between RWC and mutuals. Okay, let's start from the beginning. So counseling was recommended. Are we in favor of counseling and their services? Okay. And then the online services as a overview of what's coming. Is that a recommendation? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Okay, so that is actually a majority. I'm sorry?
I think it was 7.
Oh, okay. All right, and then we're on the fence about some sort of landscaping, fire-wise. Any recommendations for combining? Ted?
There is going to be, I know that this is going to be informational for us and for anybody who would be watching it on Zoom or in the audience, but Firewise is going to be doing a big piece of landscape as part of their next town hall, which will come on right after the turn of the year. So we'll be if we did do something like that at the turn of the year here, then we're going to be also repeating it for the town hall. But that is a focus of the Firewise, to bring landscaping into it so that people understand it and know what they'll be looking at when they say we have to be Firewise around our residents. And then there'll be a whole thing on it, is what I'm trying to say.
What about landscaping in reference to Firewise and water conservation? Okay.
Yeah, there we go. There's a bit of a problem with Firewise in that the regulations have not yet been completed. And we don't really know when that will be, although it's supposed to be the end of the year, I believe. Harun keeps mentioning that. And so I'm just wondering, are we sort of spinning our wheels on it until we get those regulations?
Active here.
I know, I just jump in real quick. I just want to make sure everybody understands that Firewise is not the same as AB 3074. Firewise is a nationally recognized platform for people in a specific geographical area to come together to strengthen their resilience against wildfire. What you guys are talking about is AB 3074, which the Governor Gavin Newsom in February told the Board of Forestry to expedite their regulations. So those regulations have not come out yet, and we don't plan to see them until 2026 at the earliest. So there's a lot of situation there that we don't know the answers to. So I just want to make sure that everybody's super clear on that. Thank you.
Okay, what was that? Susan?
I was just going to, I'm very interested in those regulations, and not that we don't care about landscaping and what's happening, but really those regulations are going to determine the timeline and what we have to do. So I think it's a great topic, but I think we should wait until the regulations are clear. So that might be for 27, maybe? Yeah.
Okay, well, we have counseling and online services. Sounds like we want to talk about landscaping in relation to water conservation, but not AB 3074.
So, and Jeroen, thank you for that clarification, but the mutuals are struggling with us right now. The residents are hearing things, and not everybody's hearing that distinction or that it's in process. And I think maybe it's not a deep dive, but at least a presentation to the board of where things are would be appropriate.
Okay, so separate from a deep dive, you're talking about an update.
And just, Ted, you mentioned that you have this town hall that's going to be happening, and it seems like, sadly, not everybody goes to those town halls, even if they're zooming in, but maybe we could take that presentation and make sure we do it here so we're up to speed on that, because I agree with Dwight, it's a big topic in the mutuals, yet we also at some point have to know what's legally going to be required.
We're, just so you understand, we're averaging a little over 700 people to those town halls.
Good.
So it's a packed house, plus Zoom is loaded.
Okay, I need a little guidance. So what's that third deep dive going to be?
I'm sorry, what was your question? I didn't hear it when you said that.
The other issue that I think we haven't talked about that I think would be interesting is the trust facilities maintenance. And this has to do with room reservations and things. People may not be aware of how that whole department provides the rooms, the cleaning, the support for it. And I think once people have the knowledge of it, understand the complexity of it, there may be a better understanding among many clubs about how the facilities are managed, how they cost, who the people are, and it becomes them aware that when you walk in here and it's all perfect, somebody did it.
Carol.
On that note, there was a wonderful article in the newspaper this week explaining all of that, and it all comes down to if people just read the newspaper. But thank you, Ann Peterson, for that article.
Okay, Dwight and then Ted.
Well, I was going to try to sum this up, that I think if we could get a presentation on AB whatever and water conservation, the functional, non-functional, that would be great. And then let's just go with what the recommendation is here. Counseling services and online services as they come about. That is enough.
I'm in agreement with that. Okay, straw vote, or how about a motion for deep dives? Do we need a motion for deep dive?
Yes, please.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion on those 3 items? Dwight. You got the verbiage, Dwight.
So I'll move that we, over the next year, the next board year, have department service level analyses, presentations. Is that what we're talking about, Jeff? For counseling, office, and then member online services as they become available.
Second. Okay, Carol seconds it. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Deborah.
So I'm just clear that there's only 2?
Yes. That is correct.
Thank you very much. Hamaji?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay. There will not be a mid-month regular meeting of the board in the month of July, and the end-of-month regular meeting of the board will be held on Thursday, July 31st at 9 o'clock here in Peacock Hall. We will be moving into executive session in a moment, but I just want to make a plug for the July 4th events. I encourage residents to attend the July 4th events. They are, it's just a spectacular day. If you're new to Rossmore, definitely go down and check it out on July 4th. And with that, we will recess to executive session. Thank you.